52 years ago, Michael Frostick of Wheelbase presented a short film on cycling. During that film, he and legendary cycle designer Alex Moulton go for a cycle, and together they tried to decide whether the bicycle's legendary efficiency could persuade the motorist to trade petrol power for pedal power. The bicycle emerged as an efficient alternative for navigating the urban environment. With spiralling fuel costs and the inconvenience of the fuel shortages, many look to the bicycle and its added health benefits as an efficient way of getting around town for short to medium journeys. The film featured interviews with cycling advocates, local town planners, and also everyday commuters. They all spoke about the flexibility and freedom that cycling offered them. For those stuck in endless lines at the petrol pumps and never-ending commutes, the bicycle offered a direct route to the solution. Between the 1930s and the 1970s, people relied on the bicycle as an efficient and cost-effective means of transportation. However, this period also earmarked a seismic change as town planners and road designers started to prioritise the car over the bicycle. The 2020 COVID-19 pandemic proved significant in boosting numbers and participation of cycling. As lockdown started and social distancing measures were implemented, many people turned to the bike to escape home as a safe way of exercise, but also as a socially distanced method of transportation. The number of cars on the road has more than doubled since 1973, with an astonishing 71% of journeys being 5 miles or less. Given that cycling helps us dodge the rush hour congestion, isn't it counterproductive that so many residents and businesses are choosing 4 wheels rather than 2? Cycling is the most efficient form of transport. In fact, Steve Jobs even once claimed that a cycling human is more efficient at locomotion than any other species can manage. Transport policy from the 70s onward has predominantly focused on the motor car, so investment in those modes went up massively, alongside the rollout of new motorways, trunk roads and strategic roads at the expense of walking, cycling and active travel improvements. While the idea of the humble bicycle is nothing new in counties like Hertfordshire, it's safe to say that the needs of the cyclist are not always thought about with new developments. We're here at the new Lee Wharf development in Hertford, and this one proudly boasts over 100 cycle slots for locking your bike, but as you can see, they remain unused. The early 1970s saw a surge in cycling popularity across the UK, partly fueled by the 1973 fuel crisis, which led to increased fuel costs and a worry about energy security. The transformation of cycling in the UK in the last 50 years has been remarkable, especially with the rise in popularity of electric bikes and cargo bikes. The 1990s saw the introduction of the first legislation that outlined what an electrically assisted powered cycle was. This legislation laid the groundwork for what would become a modern electric bike. Advancements in battery technology then allowed the first commercially viable electric bikes to hit the market. The 2010s were a big turning point for electric bikes. Those improvements in battery technology, lowered costs, and improvements to accessibility schemes like the Cycle to Work scheme meant that demand for electric bikes and sales soared. During this time, the electric cargo bike emerged as a cost-effective alternative for transport for both families and local businesses.
Cambridge has always had a tradition of cycling, always lots and lots of bicycles, possibly because of the students. It's also relatively flat. When I lived there, I joked with my friends that people in Cambridge think a hill is a railway bridge. But there's also a sort of culture for cycling. I, as a retired school teacher, have only relatively recently been in Cambridge at 4 o'clock time, 3:30, 4 o'clock, and the sheer volume of mums, dads, carers picking up children from school using cargo bikes or just other bicycles with children on the back. A long, long time ago when my children were young, I did actually have a tandem that I would cycle empty to the primary school and get a child on the back and cycle home. And again, that just facilitated, it just made the difference. It meant I could pick the child up myself combined with a part-time job that I wouldn't have been able to do if I'd had to walk, or I would have had to have a second car. So it just helps. I've got a friend who went on a cycling holiday in the Netherlands recently, making the most of the cycleways, and they had 2 children in a trailer on the back on the cycleways, and a Dutch woman said, "Oh my goodness me, you're cycling that without a battery," because e-bikes, as I say, particularly for carrying a heavy load or children, they are much, much easier. A lot of people have spoken to me recently about the option of actually dropping the second car, even for a family. And I think that once people see cargo bikes and how they're being used, they think, maybe that would be something I could do. If we're going away for a couple of days and we're maybe travelling to London or wherever by train, I can use the cargo bike with a couple of little suitcases in, cycle to the station, leave it in the secure cycle parking they've got there, because at Stevenage we've now got a separate little bit of cycle parking that's specifically for cargo bikes, leave it there nice and safe, go off on my holiday, come back, and the cost of parking, which is £1 a day, is significantly less than either parking a car or, of course, booking a taxi both ways. So I think it's those little game changer moments that can make a difference, that if people saw more cargo bikes in use, like people in Cambridge, the Netherlands do, then they could start to see how it might be able to solve problems for them as well. And save money, a lot of money.
Not all towns in Hertfordshire have succumbed under the excessive weight of car traffic. We're here in Stevenage, just down the road from Hertford, and Stevenage boasts over 40 kilometres of dedicated cycle lanes. In between writing hits such as Layla, Eric Clapton was busy designing
Wait. I think you mean Claxton.
Claxton?
Yeah, Claxton.
Oh, sorry. Eric Claxton was Stevenage's chief infrastructure designer. He had a strong ambition to create a new town with less reliance on the motorcar. Claxton had a vision for the Stevenage new town, with a convenient cycleway network which led to key areas including housing. Construction commenced on the network in 1955, and by the mid-70s the network entailed over 40 kilometres of cycle lanes. Claxton had a vision of a greener, cleaner town where residents would walk or cycle. However, this has not necessarily been the same in our county town. But has this vision translated to the modern day? Presently, 2/3 of Stevenage's residents say that they choose not to cycle, citing reasons such as increased traffic and increased development works. Claxton's infrastructure did not meet its target, with residents feeling uncomfortable riding on busy roads due to a lack of continuation where the network splits at different points within the town. The cycling network was ahead of its time, but over the years it has faced challenges such as disrepair, lack of investment, and a lack of clear connection to other towns. Stevenage Borough Council continue to promote Claxton's legacy and cite him in a number of their strategies. Improvements to the cycle network and the footpaths, and introductions of schemes such as the Beryl Hire Bike scheme help continue Stevenage Council to work towards their goal of net zero by 2030.
My name is Sergio, and I am a new member of Cycling UK Association. I've been living in Stevenage for more than 2 years, and I've been an usual cyclist. I have the opportunity to discover all the cyclist network that we can find in the city. Not many people are encouraged to cycle. If the cycle lanes could be better illuminated, they could be easier to use, for sure more people will be encouraged to use it. And maybe to try to connect them better, maybe the city centre, for instance, there is a complicated connection by bike from north to south, and the city centre is surrounded by highways. Maybe there could be something that could be done to make space for cyclists, because right now they are designed for driving as fast as possible to make it as comfortable as possible for drivers.
UK roads were still largely designed for cars, and cycling infrastructure is minimal. This is a stark contrast to the Netherlands, which invested heavily in cycling networks during the 1970s. Dutch cycle infrastructure is well known for being extensive, safe, and integrated into urban and rural planning. It encourages cycling as a regular mode of transport, not just as a recreational activity, by making it a safe and convenient option for people of all ages. The ultimate question is, should we go Dutch? In the UK, cycling could become more popular if the infrastructure improved. Better cycle paths would reduce the risk of accidents, make commuting easier, and help the environment by reducing car dependency. Cities could benefit from less congestion and improved air quality as more people choose to cycle. Frostic's film was filmed shortly after the 1973 oil crisis. The crisis brought attention to the cost-saving and energy-saving benefits of cycling. The need for safer cycling infrastructure was finally noticed, but it would take decades for real change to take foot. The energy crisis led many back to a life on two wheels. So does it take a crisis to boost cycling numbers? During the 2022 fuel crisis, Cycling UK noted a huge increase in the numbers of people cycling. This was at the same time as skyrocketing fuel prices. Does this suggest that people are cycling mainly to save money? So, in an ideal world, how would we all become cyclists? Well, cycling is not just for weekend warriors or lycra-clad elites, it is for everyone. It is an inclusive activity that can be adapted to a variety of preferences and needs. There's bikes for people with disabilities, as well as electric bikes for those who prefer a slightly more leisurely ride. And bikes come in all shapes and sizes, from tandems through to electric cargo bikes for business use. So finding the right bike can be made quite easy, and that's where we come in.
I'm Steve, and I'm the longest serving team member here at Highway Cycles. I started in the wear shop in about 1989, working for Mike Pierce, the owner, who would eventually turn out to be my father-in-law, and from whom I'd then take over the business in about 1996. We were so busy. We had 6 staff between 3 shops, where today we've got 8 staff in 1 shop. Equally, we sold lots of bikes, and it was almost pilot high and sell it cheap. They were all pretty much about the same price. So the way that we sell our bikes now is greatly different. We have to display them in a different way. We have to have a much bigger range, from 500 to about £8,000. We have to sort of have a little bit of everything. There's a market for everything, so it makes business sense to have a big choice like that. But you can't pilot high anymore. They have to be sold in a much nicer, better, cleaner, more organised environment. 1 mechanic, one salesman, one shop. That was it. Which is why when I worked out the other day how many bikes I've sold, it was about 15,000 since I've been here. There you are. Times have changed. Yeah, it really got me into cycling. But if you're going to be in the bike trade, you need to be that enthusiastic. You can't not be. You have to be a cyclist to run a successful bike business. And luckily, being in the trade, you get access to everything first off, you experience it, and then you can enthuse to sell it. Probably 1 in every 3 bikes to adults downstairs is electric. They are, without doubt, the biggest growing sector in the bike trade at the minute, especially in e-mountain bikes. People are health conscious and environment conscious, especially younger people. There's a lot more campaigning for cycle infrastructure. Customers want to come in and just see a clean, bright retail environment. They want to be welcomed by friendly, enthusiastic and knowledgeable staff. And they just want customer service, but they want it to be consistent. Under-promise, over-deliver, try not to let your customers down. It's not much. That's all they want.
In Frostick's film, he visits a so-called bike store and finds himself around the bric-and-brac of a store where bikes are found amongst the clutter of toys and are not the sole focus of the business. So, how has the high street bike store evolved over the last 5 decades? Highway Cycles first opened in 1978, with the goal of helping Hertford and further towns hit their sustainable travel goals. The store has expanded to more than just a bike shop. It is a community hub promoting bikes as both leisurely fun and a necessity in combating the continuing climate change. Whilst cycling sales have almost quadrupled in the last 5 decades, especially since the 2020 pandemic, which witnessed a huge soar in bike sales, there has been a massive drop that insiders fear could last beyond 2026. Frostick's Willpower remains a fascinating snapshot of the 1970s and its exploration of bicycles as an alternative to cars, an issue that still resonates today in the context of climate change, urban congestion, and the push for more sustainable transportation options. Could bikes once again play a key role in addressing today's climate crisis and urban mobility problems? We think they can.